From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production.
What's up, world? It's the one and only Pop DBIC, the Primetime Capper, and it is time for the premier sports betting show, the Primetime Angles. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling great. I hope you are feeling the same today. Beautiful Wednesday here in Southern California via Pasadena. So pretty much let's go ahead and jump right into it. And here we are. Our first subject is going to be Summer League. Summer League, NBA Summer League will have its most hyped season ever. Question. I think that we are probably not ever going to match the hype of the summer of ball, to be honest with you. That was incredible. The way that people showed up for Summer League that year. And a lot of people felt that Summer League, we were looking at the future of the NBA. The Sixers didn't play their rookie. We all know because he's just now getting – Fultz is just now getting healthy. You know what I mean? So we didn't have him, but we had Lonzo, and Lonzo was like an uber star. Like you've never seen anybody have that type of summer league where every game was absolutely ridiculed. Every game was spotlighted. Every game was just must-see TV. Jason Tatum was there with Jaylen Brown as well. Very exciting. Josh Johnson wound up, we figured out who he was pretty quickly as well. He didn't do that well. But that was a crazy summer because the Lakers had a great storyline to where it made it a very watchable situation. They never got ratings like that for Summer League ever. And they haven't duplicated that yet. But they can come very close to it this summer if Wemby actually plays more than a game or two. Because the reason why Zoe was able to make such a big splash in Summer League is because the guy played all the way up until the championship game, which might be the reason why he has his injury now. You know what I mean? Because he was already hurt going into that Summer League that year. But by him being a tough player and trying to have the bravado that everybody wants you to have to where you got to, if you can walk, you can play. And Lonzo Ball was a victim of that situation when you look at it now. Sometimes you do have to rest because there's bigger games on the horizon than a rinky-dinky scrimmage league summer game. And it was a great motivation for the Lakers moving forward. But it didn't grow the way that we wanted it to grow. Because you wanted this team that won that Summer League championship to stay together. You want that still to be the Lakers team right now. And that was never going to happen. We thought that day, possibility it could. But once you start really looking at things in the larger scheme of things, you'll never be able to keep those guys together. So that's my point about Summer League. Summer League can be your favorite group of guys ever for your team. You have to appreciate the fact that this is not going to be your team at the end of the day. You got a few players that will be a part of this team, but most of these guys are just trying to get a spot in the NBA. And that's what makes this so exciting is because you have a lot of guys that are trying to prove themselves and prove that they deserve an opportunity. And there's no better reality show than the NBA Summer League. So I expect some big things coming from Scoot. I expect some big things coming from Brandon Miller. And, of course, Wemby is going to have a camera everywhere. Possibly up his nose as well, too. I don't know. They might want to look at his brain as well, too. But it should be an exciting summer league. I know that it's going to have a lot of hype, and I know that certain teams are going to be spotlighted, like the Lakers. We also know that the Celtics will get some spotlight. We also know the Knicks will get some spotlight. And of course, the San Antonio Spurs will have some spotlight. And I think a team that a lot of people are going to be really excited about watching is going to be the Charlotte Hornets, because they have a lot of really good rookies that they just drafted. They didn't just draft Brandon Miller, they also drafted Amari Bailey. So that means that we'll have Amari Bailey's mom at courtside at the game. So that should be a big story in itself as well, too. So with that, we will have more about Summer League as we get to summer, as we get more news about Summer League. But from what I'm seeing right now is Wemby is all in on Summer League, and he told France that they're going to have to wait for him to show up for the Olympics. He's not going to be a part of the FIBA team. And also Rui has also ruled out playing for Japan. So I just want to give you guys some quick NBA notes before I move on to our next topic. And our next topic is this: is Calipari on the hot seat yet in Lexington? The Kentucky coach has been probably the biggest bank robber ever, in my opinion. He did a great job of coming onto the scene with Marcus Camby, Victor Padilla, Lou Rowe, all those great guys from the old UMass days, Minutemen, all that fun stuff. We all remember 96, great year of basketball, and they wound up falling short at the end of the day. But, that might have been one of the best runs you'll ever see a team have that UMass was able to put together for the time that Calipari was there. And you could have never told a youngster like myself that UMass wasn't a national power at that time. You really truly felt that they were a powerhouse team. They were bringing in top 10 players to play for that little school as well. Because, that school is not in Boston. That school is in a little Massachusetts town. So UMass was able to do exactly what most smaller schools do. And they played in the Atlantic 10 as well, too, when the Atlantic 10 was still a very major conference in college basketball, because that they have more respect for certain conferences in college basketball than they do in college football, because they play in a different type of setup. You know what I mean? A lot. So, the A10 doesn't play in the FCS, you know what I mean, in the FBS, the bowl series. So, there's just a lot of things that come into play. But then Calipari goes to Memphis, after the violations start to pile up at Massachusetts. He runs off as usual. He runs off. And then he gets with a very good recruiter, secret recruiter, really a street agent. He now runs the Knicks. So he's able to get DeJuan Wagner. DeJuan Wagner was the best player in high school basketball the year he was recruited and brought in. And then he was able to bring in Derrick Rose as well, too. That was huge. And then he got what was probably his biggest get, but it didn't wind up doing it with the numbers that they wanted him to do. In reality, when he got to the NBA, that's Tyreke Evans. So he was able to do a great job at Kentucky, at Memphis. Memphis was able to play in back-to-back Final Fours. Well, actually, they played in one Final Four, and they almost won the national championship. They were overtime period. They were Mario Chalmers miss away from actually being the national champion. Derrick Rose put on a show, and then the next thing you knew, that once Calipari had Tyreke Evans and they wrapped that situation up, here comes some more allegations very quickly, but he was already out the door headed to Kentucky. And then what does he do at Kentucky? He gets blessed with John Wall, DeMarcus Cousins, literally off the top. And they wind up losing in the Elite Eight. And then he starts recruiting some of the best freshman classes that you could ever put together at a school. And literally that becomes his calling card, is getting one and done guys just to babysit real quick and go ahead and use up some of that alumni money to ensure that we'll get ourselves a bunch of SEC titles and a shot at possibly winning a national championship. with the groups and the teams that John Calipari has recruited, he should have won 6 national titles by now at Kentucky. He's had some of the best teams that you could ever put together on a basketball court in college basketball. And he still has one national title all time. And that came because he had a player who was a phenom in a sense at that time, and that was Anthony Davis. And also John Kidd Gilchrist was a pretty uber player as well too. So you had those two guys who were very defensive minded, and they understood exactly what needed to happen to win a championship. And that's exactly what happened. You had the kid from Newark, New Jersey, hook up with the kid from Chicago, and they brought the streets into the Lexington. That's all it is. They brought a great batch of how you're supposed to play when you got that dog in you, and that's exactly what happened. They sacrificed their offense for defense, and that's what got them a national championship. It wasn't the coach. And this is where I say that literally he's stealing money now because Kentucky hasn't been relevant in the last 3 years. Let's keep it real. They keep producing guys to the NBA. But once again, those guys were already hand chosen when they were in high school. They just went to Kentucky to get babysat. And you can't have your coach at this great college be a babysitter. Adolph Rupp wasn't a babysitter. Tubby Smith wasn't a babysitter. Rick Pitino wasn't a babysitter. You have to get the guys that are going to commit to the University of Kentucky and try to get Kentucky back to the promised land. I know that boosters do not like what is happening to their school, and they don't like the fact that they are financing these great classes and they're getting little results. You know, they should be in the Final Four every year, or at least the Elite Eight. They were pulling teeth just to get past the first round this year. And believe it or not, they had the National Player of the Year and came nowhere near the national championship. When do you ever see anything like that occur? You don't. And that goes, and then that's when you point the finger directly back at Coach Cal. And that's why I say that he has to be on the hot seat now. Come on. You lost the whole team this year, literally had to replace the whole team because you either had guys leave or you had guys go to the draft or you just had guys say, you know what, I don't want to play here anymore. I'm leaving. So it is what it is at the end of the day. And hopefully Kentucky does light the fire up under him and reminds him what he's there for. He's not there to recruit the best top 100 classes every year. He's there to win championships. Championships. You're literally getting passed up now by Alabama, Auburn, LSU, Florida. You know, those teams, they're not even, they don't even need to throw together that much, and they're beating you. And you got to go out here and go get every All-American there is to go win by 2. That's not conducive to a great coach. It's not conducive to paying him $10-12 million a year. I say that he has to be on the hot seat this year. What has he proven as a college basketball coach other than that he can recruit players? And when we say recruit players, we know what it truly means. Pay players. You know what I mean? So it is what it is. But we move forward, and let's go ahead and talk about the Ravens are in ring or bust mode this season after going all in on Lamar and OBJ. Well, I'll be honest with you. OBJ is going to use the fact that the last time you saw him, he was playing in the Super Bowl. And what happened? He got hurt in that Super Bowl, but his team still won the Super Bowl. And, you know, a lot of people are going to live off that moment in time that, you know, OBJ, when healthy, he's capable of getting you all the way to the end level. But you know what? They tend to forget that OBJ was not the main receiver on that Rams team. Cooper Kupp was their guy at the end of the day. Let's keep it real. Cooper Kupp. And then also Van Jefferson was a big play for them as well too. So, OBJ was literally an add-on in the middle of the season that helped them get over the top because the Rams were kind of in a position where we don't know if they're going to really be a Super Bowl team before they got OBJ. And when they got OBJ, they got a little bit of a new confidence to them, and they went ahead and they made some great things happen. They were able to make the playoffs. They were able to get home field advantage as well too. And then they got a cherry spot in the Super Bowl at their house, and they took care of them. Let's keep it real. The Rams might have the most asterisk of a title ever because the way that the referees were pretty much involved with the end of the game. Even the Rams were shocked that they were getting all those calls at the end of the game in a damn Super Bowl. So, you have OBJ, who was very difficult last season to sign because he was hurt and didn't want to admit that he was hurt, and that he wasn't going to be able to play all season because he hurt himself in the final game of the season, which happened to be in February. So there was no chance of him coming back before wintertime. And so pretty much he just ran around and just had a lot of media coverage on him going to basketball games and getting courted by the Dallas Cowboys. And he still didn't sign with the Dallas Cowboys. And then he went off and he had all these tours and all these visits and all that stuff. And then he winds up picking the Ravens. Well, he picked the Ravens because the Ravens were the only ones that were going to match the price that he was asking for. Nobody else is stupid enough to give OBJ the money he was asking for, because OBJ at the end of the day's best years are in New York City with the G-Men. And, he hasn't been in New York for a long time. So pretty much we are living off the past with OBJ. OBJ was good at a moment in time of his career. Now he's just very feasible, in my opinion. Lamar Jackson, though, still has not had a receiver with this type of talent that has ever played with him. So this is going to be huge because even with the washed version of OBJ, you still got a guy who's better than 70% of the wide receivers in the NFL. Now, he knows how to win the right way. You know what I mean? And that's going to be something that's going to be very good for Lamar. But you're going to be looking for Lamar to be breaking out, scrambling and throwing and doing these Vic plays and trying to throw the ball 60 yards down the field and try to get himself a wide open OBJ. I don't think that's going to work, to be honest with you, because OBJ really needs a quarterback that can stand in the pocket and let it fly. All that running around and moving around and all that stuff is not going to be good for a guy like that, because he really does bust up coverages when he's playing on a big, when he got a big one going. But usually with OBJ, it's more crossing routes, it's more slants, it's more of that type of stuff. And I think that's something that Lamar is going to have to really improve on this year. And I think he's going to have to be way more of a passer this year than a runner, because if he's still just going to run and do all that stuff, it might be a little bit of a conflict of interest for this Ravens team. They brought in Zay Flowers as well too. They brought in receivers so that he can stay in the pocket and not make them hold their breath every time he leaves the pocket, because he's asking for astronomical numbers on his contract, and he's a dangerous player, meaning that it's always any play of the game, this guy's season can be over. And that's what the Ravens really were having their issues with. So they bring in OBJ, they bring in Zay Flowers, they bring in guys so their quarterback can stay in the pocket and throw the football. So being in ring or bust mode for Baltimore is perfect, because Baltimore has had a team that's more than capable of winning football games, but they just keep falling short because they got Lamar doing way too much. Now they got themselves some receivers, and they already have some pretty good running backs as is. So now they got a pretty complete offense. And then you add in a pretty physical offensive line. You have the Ravens, who are looking to be a top 10 offense pretty much for like the first time ever in my opinion, in both running and passing. So it should be a lot of fun, and we'll see how it goes. But OBJ, Lamar, they're all in on getting a ring this year. But they know one thing: it all starts with getting through the AFC North, because that's going to be a journey in itself. All right. So let's go ahead and get into our next topic. And much love to you as well, nephew. I saw that, man. So thank you, man. Much appreciated. I'm glad that you're watching the show on a daily basis, man. It's beautiful that we have you supporting, man. If we have you supporting and others supporting us as well too with the show. Well, me, I always say us, but it's really a one-man show. But I say us because you guys are watching the show, you guys are participating, and you guys are absolutely awesome, man. And that's all I can say. But let's go ahead and talk a little bit of boxing before we take our first break. Wilder Ruiz is in talks for a late summer date. Will this fight get made after recent comments from Team Ruiz? Well, now, from what I'm hearing, they offered a contract to Andy Ruiz, Deontay Wilder, and they said that the contract is a 70-30 contract. It's not 50-50. It's not 60-40. It's not any of that. But I truly do think that we know it's a big pay-per-view. We know that the fight is probably going to be at Staples Center or in Brooklyn. So those are going to be guaranteed sellouts because it's Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder is good at selling out the house because Deontay Wilder knocks people out. It's that simple. You know, he even had a good crowd against Salinas. Well, he might have not have did that great on pay-per-view, but Deontay Wilder has graduated from regular Showtime and regular bouts that are on, you know, any things that have a higher paywall. You know what I mean? So he's just in a different league. When you're a champion for 6-7 years and then you knock everybody out, you reserve the right to be on pay-per-view, and he's a heavyweight. Now, Andy Ruiz, he does kind of look like Andy Reid a little bit. But Andy Ruiz is somebody who also has graduated to pay-per-view as well, too. He was able to fight Anthony Joshua twice. Those weren't on pay-per-view, but they were on the zone, and you had to pay for that. And then he's fought 2 other pay-per-views as well, too, against Chris Arreola, which was a big event over at Carson, or out in Carson, which makes that pretty funny is because they had the event at Carson, but they should have had the event at Staples. But the thing is, though, they had it in Carson because this was fresh off of the pandemic as well, too. So it made a lot of sense to have a fight like that at a smaller venue because you were going to try to get a sellout, which it didn't happen. But still, though, Andy Ruiz was able to make history, so he's no longer going to be on regular Showtime either. So that's why you got to have this guy on pay-per-view against Deontay Wilder on pay-per-view. I'm just trying to get you guys to understand they're both former world champions, and they're both guys that literally have highlight reel knockouts, so that's why they're in position to do what they're doing. But when it comes down to the comments from Ruiz and crew, they've been begging to fight Deontay Wilder for the last 6-7 years. You know, when he was the WBC champ, they said they'll take whatever to take that belt up off of Deontay. And then, you know, as soon as Andy beats Anthony Joshua, the price went up on him. And then when they overpaid him to have the rematch, he literally has put himself in a position to where he's priced himself out of a lot of these big fights. And Andy Ruiz, before he got to Anthony Joshua, was a desperate man. He said you could pay him whatever. He just wants to fight. And see, this is what happens when you get the big win and you start making some real money. Then you start running around and you start acting a little bougie. And so pretty much Andy Ruiz is in a position right now where he might have priced himself out of a good payday, in my opinion. I think that Andy Ruiz, if he really wants to find a way to get back into the mix with a chance to win the heavyweight title, meaning that possibly getting a shot at Fury, possibly getting a shot at Usyk, he has to take the same type of situation he did when he fought Anthony Joshua. Deontay not having a belt means absolutely nothing. Deontay is probably the most polarizing fighter from the U.S. at this moment. I know people want to argue and say it's Tank, but Deontay Wilder has a little bit of an advantage over him because he's a heavyweight. And when you're a U.S. heavyweight, everybody's going to know your name. Everybody's going to know your face. And that deemed to be absolutely true. I went to the Super Bowl. I asked 10 people, did they know who Deontay Wilder was? Yes, they did. Did they watch boxing? No, they did not. But they seen Deontay's knockouts on the internet, so they have a good idea who he is. Also, same thing goes for Andy Ruiz. So these guys do warrant having a pay-per-view and getting the top dollars that they are seeking. But Andy Ruiz has to understand that he is the B-side. And he got a great lucky win over Anthony Joshua, hitting somebody in the back of the head, and ref not saying anything about it. It's real helpful. Nobody wants to bring that up because nobody wants to take away Andy's win. But Andy did do some roughhouse tactics to really win the first fight. And then when he got dominated in the second fight, you really could see that that was pure luck that night in New York City because he wasn't taken seriously. So, he's putting himself in position where he feels he can get an upset, but the way this fight is setting up and the way his life is going at this point, he needs all the checks that he can get because his situation is going to get really messy. And pretty much he needs to go humble himself and remember where he was at 5-6 years ago when I met him in Inglewood, and we were getting ready to have his fight with Zervanchenko or whatever that guy's name is. So, it is what it is at the end of the day. I hope that this fight can be made. It seems like it is going to be made. They just need to have a little bit of theater so then everybody can have their 2 cents put into it and see if they really want this fight. That's what they're pretty much doing right now is testing it. They have a contract in place to do the fight, but they got to keep selling the fight. And I've came to just realize this working within the boxing business. So with that, we're going to go ahead and take a break. And when I get back, we're going to go ahead and jump into tonight's baseball, and we're going to talk some Blue Crew Daily. So you guys stay tuned. This is the premier sports betting show, the Primetime Angles, with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Capper.
Good News Only Racing Club, led by the legendary Doug O'Neill, the trainer of 2 Kentucky Derby winners and I'll Have Another and Nyquist. Also trained 2-time Breeders' Cup champ Golden Sense, who are just a part of a long list of thoroughbred champions trained by Doug O'Neill. The Good News Only Racing Club has a young core of horses to look out for in Dennis's Celery, Irish Heatwave, and Notre Dame, just to name a few. Win the day every day with the Good News Only Racing Club, a proud sponsor of the NFL Bet Exchange.
From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production.
Tune into Big Wave Boxing every week with a brand new guest with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Capper, getting the best boxing stories, best boxing angles, and the truth when it all comes down to the sweet science. Tune in to Big Wave Boxing on the Prime Wave Media channel on YouTube.
All right, we're back with the premier sports betting show, the Primetime Angles, with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Capper. Let's go ahead and jump into our games from last night. But first, we have ourselves the Blue Crew Daily. Blue Crew Daily, Dodgers shut out the Rockies 5-0, but no movement in the standings. Man, the Dodgers are trying to get themselves back into the mix. They're in third place. Giants won yesterday. They shut out the Blue Jays. And then last night, the Diamondbacks were able to get themselves a really good win over the team with the best record in baseball, beating the Devil Rays by a few runs last night, but they were able to kind of beat up on the Devil Rays last night as well too. They actually beat them 8-4, so that was a little bit of a surprise because the Rays have been so good in these in these opening games and everything like that. But it was good to see a team really try to work it out. But the Diamondbacks started off that game so well. They started off with 5 runs to start that game off. Corbin Carroll hits a 3-run shot as well too. And you got to understand, this guy's like the leadoff man, and they got him back like third and stuff. Perdomo, Christian Walker, these guys, they got a really young, exciting team, man. That's all I can say. And the Dodgers really do need to figure out that they're going to have to really add in some really key players come trade deadline. And that's going to have to be pitching. That's going to have to be hitting. That's going to have to be a lot of things, a veteran leadership, a lot of stuff. Dodgers last night, though, very good. Clayton Kershaw went 6 innings last night, gave up 1 hit last night, 1 hit. But the Dodgers pitching only gave up 3 hits in all. JD Martinez was our player of the game last night. He hit 2 home runs last night, supplied 3 of the 5 RBIs last night. James Outman also was pretty good to get things started in the top of the second inning. He was able to knock in a run get himself an RBI and pretty much trying to get himself back into the mix. He hasn't hit a home run in a month. You know what I mean? He's still stuck at 9 home runs because we all know that Outman is literally Outman should have literally already hit should already be creeping towards 20 home runs, but he only has 9 home runs on a year. He's batting .240, but you're still excited about him. You know that Outman is going to probably have a point where he's going to get really hot, just like he did in April. He just has to get more comfortable, and I feel like it's a game-by-game situation with him, but we'll get to that point eventually. You know what I mean? But he was so good with that sample size we got of him last year. So that's why we're looking towards him having a good year. But 91 strikeouts this year, that's going to have to be cleaned up. 91 strikeouts over 23 walks. That's, to me, you're chasing too much. You're chasing way too much at the end of the day. And I think that he needs to be sharper on his eye, and he'll get good. He'll get better. But right now, he's still learning how to be a professional, in my opinion. Now, Max Muncy's back. That means that offense should take it to the next level. But you know what you get with Max Muncy when he can touch the ball, it's probably going to be something big like a home run, a double, a single, something like that. But when he's not touching the ball, usually it's a strikeout. So we're going to have to watch Max Muncy a little bit. He might be a key asset during the trade deadline if you can get a player that's way more valuable than him, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, Max Muncy's a great player, but he may check out when you get to the postseason. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it shakes out. But tonight, we got a 5:40 start in Denver. Neither team is named their starting pitcher for tonight. And from looking at how this game sets up, this game to me feels like it's going to go over. So the Dodgers are in place right now to get themselves a little bit closer. But when you look at the standings, you say to yourself, 1 game at a time. And you just keep taking care of your business, and eventually everything will fall in place. They're only a half game behind San Francisco, and they're only actually about 2.5 games behind Arizona. So they have a lot of things working out in the right direction for them. And they've just won their last 5 out of 6. So that's pretty good for the Dodgers as they try to stay afloat and try to keep teams like Philly and Milwaukee at bay at this point, and also Cincinnati. And here come the Cubs. 37-40. They're not too far out of their lead either. So, we'll see how it goes. We got an exciting National League right now. I really do feel like teams that are struggling a little bit right now, it's even teams with losing records, they're going to have a big month soon. And you just got to hope that your team doesn't have a bad month when they have a big month. You know what I mean? So it is what it is. All right. So pretty much with that, let's go ahead and move forward and let's jump into our next topic in hand, and that's going to be the MLB Wednesday night. We got a full schedule going tonight, and we have ourselves right now. We got a game going in. We got a game going right now. And is it over yet? And it is over. The Braves beat the Twins 3-0, shutout, and they absolutely dominated the Twins in this series. They wind up sweeping the Twins for this series as well, too. So that's kind of surprising. Kenta Maeda pitched decent, but it just wasn't enough to get them over the top today. Kirby Yates actually was the one that got the win today, and that's kind of wild because they had Allard starting, but I think what happened is that they wound up going with, Kobe Allard started, but Yates got the victory. I don't get it. How did Yates get the win? And I'm trying to figure this out. Okay, and how did that happen? Because I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. But still, they dominated them throughout this series. Minnesota really did need to get swept. It's not good, because now they're looking at the fact that they're now tied. You know what I mean? Even though they're 40-42 and the Indians are 38-40, you have to understand that they have more losses than the Indians have. So that's why they're in first place technically, because they have more wins, but they have more losses as well too. It's a weird situation, but they've lost 3 games in a row, and now they're deadlocked with the Indians, and I know they don't want that. They do not want that at all. So that's going to be huge moving forward. Now we do have a game starting in the next 30 minutes. That's going to be the Nationals and the Mariners. That one right there should be a really fun game because you have a pretty good pitching matchup going today with Corbin and with Gilbert. So those two should be pretty good to go today. And, I feel like there's going to be a lot of hitting going on in that game. But let's go ahead and jump into our first game that I'm previewing today, and that's going to be the Padres, who are 37-42, at the Pirates, who are 36-42. And you have Blake Snell on the mound for the Padres, and you have Mitch Keller on the mound for the Padres. Now, you have Blake Snell, who has a 3.22 ERA. He's 4-6 on the year, and he struck out 104 guys this year, over 40 walks. And then Mitch Keller, who's 8-3 on the season, and he has a 3.45 ERA, and he struck out 113 batters this year while giving up 26 walks. Mitch Keller is a big reason why this team is playing the baseball that they're playing. Even though he started off 7-1 and actually hasn't had a win decision in the last 5 games, but it's fine because he always does his job. And last time out, he pitched 7 innings, and the game was still tied up. It was a close game, so that's why he didn't factor into the decision. But he struck out 5, and he gave up 5 hits. Game before that, he gave 4 runs over 5 innings, struck out 7, gave up 5 hits. And then against the Mets, gave up a run, went 7 innings, struck out 7, only gave up 2 hits. So in his last 3, he's been good. He's only given up 6 runs. So that means in the last 3, he's only going to give up, it's only possibly 2 runs he's going to give up tonight. Maybe if, the Padres aren't hitting as usual. So pretty much Mitch Keller has some pretty good numbers. Blake Snell coming into this one. He pitched very well in his last game. Struck out 12, went 6 innings, then did that in the previous game. Before that, struck out 12, only gave up a run. Against San Francisco on the 22nd, he wound up striking out 11. So that means that he's had 35 strikeouts over his last 3 games. And if you factor in the Chicago game, he's only given up 1 run in his last 6 games. He's only given up 1 run in his last 5. So Blake Snell is probably pitching his absolute best right now. And what's making this situation kind of sad is that he's only 4-6, but he's won his last 4 decisions. So last 3 decisions, actually. Sorry. So, that is really good, in my opinion. So pretty much tonight, what happens here is that Blake Snell will probably get overbet, and Mitch Keller will probably be underbet because the pitching matchup. But really, we have to look at who's in the lineups tonight. And I think that the Pirates lineup is playing a lot better right now than the Padres lineup. The pitching is there tonight for the Padres, but will the hitting be there? With the Pirates, I just trust them a little bit more because now they were a team that tasted the top of the National League this season, and they were able to keep their lead in their division for at least 6 weeks. So they got a confidence to them, and they know that they can possibly still win their division. So they're going to be all in tonight. Even though they've moved to last place, they're still only 8 games behind, and they know that possibly they can start another streak and put themselves back in position. Actually, they're 5 games behind. I was looking at the Cardinals. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it shakes out. But tonight, I'm going to go ahead and be a little froggy tonight. I'm going to take the Pirates as my dog of the day with the plus 135. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it shakes out. We move forward from there. All right, so we move forward to the Phillies at the Cubs. This may be the best game of the day. We got 2 really good pitchers on the mound in Aaron Nola and Drew Smyly. Aaron Nola is coming into this game trying to keep the hot hand rolling for the Phillies. The Phillies have had their best month of the season, in my opinion. The Phillies were coming off of a good 6-game run, and then what happened is that they lost their next 3 out of 4, but they've won their last 2 in a row. So that is working out pretty good for this team. And when you look at their overall record for this month, it's worked out pretty good for these guys. They've actually went 14 and 7 this month. So that's pretty good for this team. The way that they're rolling out and everything like that. They've had some games postponed this month, but that's okay. They're still playing really good baseball. But Nola is probably the one thing that has been a constant this year. And I just say this because Philly was so bad just last month. Now we are starting to see the same Philadelphia team that started making their move last season when they were able to get to the NLCS and to the World Series. So you got to watch out. You got to be ready for whatever happens. You know what I mean? And pretty much when it comes down to it, you have a team that is very savvy. You know what I mean? And so pretty much we have ourselves a very, very good group here tonight with this situation. Now, Nola in his last game struck out 5, gave up 2 hits, walked 2, gave up no runs. But prior to that, he gave 4 and 6. And so pretty much he had gave up 10 runs over his last 2 games before that, but he struck out 16. So that was against 2 teams that are really good, the Diamondbacks and the Dodgers, but he was able to shut down the Braves. So the Cubs have to be ready because last time he played against the Cubs, it wound up being a pretty good game. He won 7 innings, he gave up 4 hits, but he struck out 10, only gave up 2 runs, and walked 1. It was a dominant effort that day. He wasn't a part of the decision, though. So today, Nola should be back and ready to be great. He's been playing exceptional baseball, except for the prior 2 games. Drew Smyly might be running into a little bit of trouble tonight because last game out, he went 5 innings. He gave up no runs, struck out 4, walked 5. But prior to that, he gave 5 runs, 9 hits, struck out 4 over 6 innings. Now, Smyly is 7-4 on the season for a reason, and it seems like his ERA is fluctuating. He'll have it go up one game, then he'll have it come back down the next game. So you really don't know what pitcher you're going to get. But tonight, I feel like what happens in this spot, you have a Cubs team that's going to keep this game very close. And I don't have the Cubs winning, but I do need them to win the game tonight. But I'm going to take a little bit of insurance tonight. I'm going to take the plus 1.5 to make sure that they're still just in the game. So just in case things don't work out, we only lose by 1, we cash the ticket. How about that? All right, so we move forward. Let's go ahead, jump into the final game that I have here for you guys. This is our American League game tonight, and this one's going to be at the Big A. You got the White Sox, 34-47, going against the Angels, 44-37. Ohtani had a night last night, struck out 10, gave up, hit 2 home runs. Everybody was in a tizzy last night. Will I agree and say that he's the best player ever? No, he's not. Hell no. That's not even close. Is he the best player in baseball right now? Maybe. I don't want to say he's the best player in baseball right now because he's not the best pitcher in baseball. Let's just keep it real. And I wouldn't say he's the best power hitter in baseball either. But I would say that he's the best all-around player in baseball because he can do both. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Shotani to me is really like an injury away from all this just wrapping up. And it probably would be him not pitching anymore because he's more valuable to me as a hitter than he is as a pitcher. That's just the truth, in my opinion, at the end of the day. Because when you're a pitcher's mind state is always about pitching. When you're a hitter, your mind state is always about hitting, but you want to be a good fielder as well too and play great defense. But when you have the best of both worlds, you kind of just are like literally being overused, in my opinion. And it's going to come back to bite the Angels in the butt. If I'm giving you $600 million, we're going to figure out what position you're actually going to play. You know what I mean? We're not going to have you still pitching and hitting. It's one or the other, in my opinion, when we're giving you $500 million. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, he won't be able to pitch as long as he'll be able to hit, in my opinion. You know what I mean? So you have to start preparing for Ohtani not to be a pitcher anymore. I think that everybody knows where his true calling is at, and that's on hitting the ball. And that's what excites everybody anyway. But Ohtani is a pleasure to watch because he loves the game of baseball, and he might be the savior that baseball needs right on time to push the sport back into the mainstream because it's still a very relevant sport. It's still the pastime sport. It's still a sport that has a lot of history to it, but it's starting to get further and further down the totem pole. And baseball is a top 3 sport. It should not be that way. So with this game tonight, we have some Jaime Barria on the mound, and then we have Lucas Giolito. So tonight, I truly do feel like what happens here in this game is that the White Sox find a way to get themselves a good win. Giolito has actually improved upon himself since, a rocky start to the season. He's actually lowered his ERA back down to 3.41. Last time out, he struck out 10. He gave up 3 runs over 6 innings, but that wound up being a pretty good game for Boston that day. But he pitched very well in that game. You can't take that away from him. He pitched well in the game prior to that as well, too, against Seattle, giving up 3 runs, striking out 5, going over 5 innings. But he did very well against Miami, striking out 8 and only giving up 1 run over 7 innings. So, pretty much we have this game tonight. The way I look at it, I like the skinny dog, the little dog, the chihuahua. And I'll go ahead and I'll take that tonight with the plus 105 on the White Sox. And that's going to be a part of our late ticket. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and take a quick commercial break. When I get back, we're going to jump into Talking Tickets. So you guys stay tuned. This is the premier sports betting show, the Primetime Angles with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Capper.
Now you and your friends can compete in the sport of kings and win big with Stable Duel. Get the app, pick your horses, and get in on the thrill of horse racing with daily games competing against other players. Bring home the glory and the cash. and move up the annual leaderboard while you leave your competition in the dust. Get in the game with Stable Duel. Play, race, win.
Good News Only Racing Club, led by the legendary Doug O'Neill, the trainer of 2 Kentucky Derby winners, and I'll have another in Nyquist. Also trained 2-time Breeders' Cup champ Golden Sense, who are just a part of a long list of thoroughbred champions trained by Doug O'Neill. The Good News Only Racing Club has a young core of horses to look out for in Dennis's Celery, Irish Heatwave, and Notre Dame, just to name a few. Win the day every day with the Good News Only Racing Club, a proud sponsor of the NFL Bet Exchange.
All right, we are back. Let's go ahead and jump into talking tickets. We got ourselves 3 cards today. I thought I was going to have a double for the WNBA, but the Sparks and the Sky already started playing, so I can't get that in for you guys. So pretty much let's go ahead and jump into the one game that we do have today, and that's going to be this game right here. It's going to be the Dream versus the Mystics. The Dream, I have them with the plus 5.5 first, plus 5.5 for the full game. And then we will have the over 82.5 for the first half. And then I'm going to wrap it with the Dream money line plus 125 first quarter. So that's the first quarter. Don't get confused. That's the first quarter of the game. So Dream, get it home for us tonight. Let's see how it goes. Let's see how it shakes out. Should be a good spot because these teams are really evenly matched. You have the Dream, who have some of the better young players in the league on their team, and then you have the Mystics, who have a really good, mix of players. But I think that it's going to be a really close game tonight. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it shakes out. We move forward from there. All right, so we have ourselves the MLB PrimeTime PK6 at 60-1 tonight. We have the Orioles. I have them winning tonight by 2 or more runs against the Reds with the minus 115. Our dog of the day, the Pirates, plus 135. We got the Giants and the Blue Jays, one of the better games of the day today. I got the over 8.5 going in that spot. We got the Marlins minus 125. I think this should be some good money for us tonight at Fenway as well, too. And then we have the under 8.5 Brewers Mets. And that should be a very good pitching duel tonight, in my opinion. I think that both pitchers are going to step up and step out tonight for that one. And then, as I said before, Cubs plus 1.5, minus 145. We'll see how this one goes. And we move forward from there. All right, we have ourselves a 14-1 ticket here with the late pick 4. We got the Red Hot Rangers minus 115. We should have trying to get them to win by 2 or more runs tonight. Then we have the Dodgers and the Rockies. They need to make up for that lack of scoring last night that they had for me and my client. So tonight they'll go ahead and they'll probably have themselves a fire fest because we haven't announced the pitcher yet. So I do like the over 12.5 in this spot tonight. And then we have the White Sox money line plus 105 tonight at the Big A. Giolito, get it home for us. And then in what's probably the matchup of the week, the Rays and the Diamondbacks, we're going to take the under 9.5 in this spot. And that's going to be a wrap for Talking Tickets today. So pretty much tomorrow we got a full day of shows. We got me and Jeff, but me and Jeff will confirm in the morning because they are having some storms in Cape Cod right now. So pretty much it looks like I'm supposed to be on Jeff's show midday, the midday report tomorrow. And then we'll have my show, the PrimeTimeAngles, and then the Mike Abadir show at 4 o'clock. And at 4 o'clock in the afternoon tomorrow. So that should be a lot of fun. And thank you for the update on the pitching because they didn't have a pitcher for me an hour ago. But as Nephew just said, it's going to be Grove and Kyle tonight. Kyle Freeland tonight for the pitching. So thank you for that update. And pretty much that's a show. That's a wrap. You know what I mean? So with that, thank you very much for tuning in today. We'll be back tomorrow. A whole lot of shows tomorrow as well, too. Also, Belmont Park returns, so you guys be ready for that. Sorry about PID today because it was actually canceled because of the weather. And the air quality wasn't good enough for the jockeys and the horses. The horses don't care, but it was more about the jockeys. And yeah, so pretty much we'll be back tomorrow with the New York racetrack. And so you guys be ready for that on the Twitter as well, too. So once again, thank you guys very much for tuning in today. As I always say, bet with your head and not with your heart. The movement is moving, and I am gone.
From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production.